Yeah, Mike Scott, the only way to keep calm is troubled world, have a serene mind. We'll talk a bit about the history of AA and NA. AA started in 1939, but 1939, blacks was not allowed in AA in 1939, and the prostitutes, they call them fallen women, they were not allowed in AA in 1939. If you was a bum, you could not come to AA. And if you was from the state institution, you were not allowed in AA 1939. So 1945, Bill W. got a call. The guy name was Barry L. He wrote a book called Living Sober, New York City. He said, Bill, we got a guy, he's a black guy, and what happened was 1945, this guy was a cross-dresser. And they called it different stigmas, sexual deviant. But he was actually common black man. He had a wig on, blonde wig, and a dress. And he was a different stigma. So Bill W. asked this guy, was he an alcoholic? And Barry asked Bill, Bill asked Barry, was he an alcoholic? Barry L. wrote Living Sober. And Bill told Barry, that's all we need to know. So he let this guy in AA in 1945. And that's where the traditions come, because see, we normally not mixed. Like I said before, as a elitist crowd, it was like you had to be, like Bill was a Wall Street broker. So you couldn't come to AA in 1945. So that's where the 12 traditions come in play. And so what happened was, the difference between, and how was NA was developed, NA started in 1953. And what happened was, NA, Jimmy K from New York City, he was from AA, but he left AA because he said he got a cold reception in AA. So what happened was, in 1953, when the 12 and 12 was invented, it was created, came out, but they gave Jimmy K permission to use the 12 and 12 because there was no books, NA books, and so Jimmy K started NA in California. So they had to get permission. So that's how NA was developed. And see, people don't know the traditions because see, right now, people in NA don't like AA, AA don't like NA. See, they like gangbanging, but they help each other. So that's the history of how the traditions come in play. See, tradition is basically to keep the fear, the fourth tradition called children of chaos. And that's to keep the fear of the politicians, the rules and mandates of the world out of this 12-step program. See, right now, they got a lot of mandates, but now, the game is so cold, they finna open up the world now because they know they put them stimulus checks out there. We just heard about a young lady got killed. A guy killed 4 people over stimulus check, And that's why Bill talks about in Big Book, he talked about we can't place money first. He says, although financial recovery way for many of us, we found we cannot place money first. Material well-being always follows spiritual, and they're preceded. Because what happened was, when he talked about the papers printed about men of high financial about to commit suicide, because what happened was, when the Great Depression hit 1929, these guys, wealthy guys, got broke overnight, and they committed suicide. That's why he's talking about we cannot place money first. And see, the fellowships is supposed to be a spiritual program. It's not about clothes, cars, or things, but it's about the peace that comes from the spiritual principles. And that's why we didn't mess with the Rockefeller Foundation, because the Rockefellers, some places now, you can't mention God in the schools, and some places they call them cancel culture. Some places out there, like in Facebook, you can't speak your mind. You can't, you speak your mind, you get closed down. So that's why we have a freedom in the 12 steps, freedom. And what happened was, when the COVID hit, a lot of places got shut down. So a lot of people died because of isolation. Jimmy K talks about isolation. And we come from, addiction is a disease of isolation, and it's based on fear. What is fear? Fear is the curse of the world. Fear is everywhere. You mean say you got 2 shots and a mask on and you still scared? Fear is the curse of the world. So we don't have to live in fear. And so The freedom, and this is all about freedom. That's why they have the constitutional rights. People have freedom, from God. See, God commands the Son. And so when you come in these spiritual principles, you work the steps, we get freedom. Where I could be happy. And my happiness not based on the White House. The happiness, see, I learned one thing. If your happiness depends on money, you will never be happy with yourself. Happiness comes from within. Nothing outside me can bring me inner happiness. It's an inner journey, and I got to go inside. Because, see, you watch Houdini, the movie called Houdini. Houdini died at the end because he got trapped in his illusions. See, the world out there tell you to put a mask on like this. They tell you to wash your hands, stay indoors. Now you can buy marijuana, and marijuana is a drug. I don't care just because the state made $1 billion off of selling weed, marijuana. We call back in the day, they're talking about who's in the box. But we found out one thing, a monkey can't sell bananas. So the world is full of trickery. So I got to go opposite the world to see the peace that come from not following the crowd. Because, see, I follow a lot of crowds and stuff. And sometimes I found out I was going the wrong way. A lot of people was going to the water air show, 1 million people, and I stopped going to the water air show because, see, I had to stop worshiping things that take life. That's why Solomon said in Proverbs, he said, wisdom is better than weapons of war. So I had a military stepfather. I was forced to get up 4 o'clock in the morning and hold a gun. I don't hold guns today. And also, I haven't gambled in 31 years. See, a part of addiction is getting a rush. Just like I used to get a rush off of being in the one-night stands, kind of women in bed. Like a thief can walk in the store, get a rush, he can have $1,000 in the pocket, and he can get a rush off of stealing a candy bar. So we talk about rushes, but see, today I don't get a rush. Houdini, and also, like Evel Knievel, he got a thrill off of jumping off of cars. He got a rush off of that. So today, the cool to be a square, the slow lane is the best lane. I haven't drinking 31 years, and I took up alcohol substance abuse counseling. And first thing they tell you in school when you go to counseling class, they tell you that alcohol is full of sugar and carbohydrates. That's why the alcohol gives a burst of energy. Also, the alcoholic always has a cold because alcohol breaks down his resistance. That's why he's always sick. And that's why alcohol kills 3.2 million people worldwide and put them in the ground. They're gonna die from alcohol, and it's not going. The numbers are never gonna go down. Alcohol kills more people in the world next to cigarettes, which kills 8 million people worldwide. It's 1 billion people hooked on cigarettes. My mother went to the grave smoking cigarettes. Give her a cigarette and a Pepsi, she was happy. So we talking about addictions. So I learned a man is rich in proportion of things you can afford to leave alone. So it's more than drugs, like gambling. Like I said, I haven't gambled 31 years. I don't know what the horse's name at the racetrack. I used to know the horse's name at the racetrack. I used to cut class, shoot dice, and drink shake and bake, white pork and Kool-Aid. And when I gamble, the guys I gambled, they say a scared man can't win. So I didn't want to walk away from that game because I wanted them guys to know I was scared to lose my money. So I was get broke. But like I said, I don't know what the scratch off number, I don't know the lottery number, and I don't drink root beer. So yeah, just like I said, Mike Scott, Chicago, only way to keep calm in this troubled world is have a serene mind. The educated man is a man with certain spiritual qualities, which makes him calm in adversity and happy when alone. So history, know your history. History merely repeats itself. There's nothing new under the sun. Everything has been said and done, everything. Remember they said the Wright brothers couldn't fly, but they fly. So, like I say, I'm glad to be above ground. Any day above ground means a good day. Life unfolds on a great sheet called time, and once finished, it is gone forever. Seize the moment. I spot check myself. When I put my shoes to the bed, I tell myself this might be my last day on earth, because one day it will be. And every time the sun rises, I think of my life which is beginning. So, stay in action. Good people walk on whatever happens to them. Good people don't yearn for pleasures. The wise not so changes. Highs or lows, whether touched by happiness, else by sorrow. So this is the year They passed the COVID virus. The COVID's going on, and I ain't had a cold all year. I ain't got sick because, like I say, pray, meditate, stay close to God. God can be a shield. No problems in the world can harm me. Mike Scott, Chicago, cool to be a square.